Hey, flooring pros. I'm Jerry Levinson, and this is the Flooring Business Podcast, where we talk to expert flooring dealers, suppliers, marketing experts, software experts, and anyone I believe is going to help you in your flooring business. Now, my mission is to give you good information. It's going to help you reach your goals. So if you're just starting your business, or you're trying to reach 5 million in sales, or you're getting ready to sell your business, we're going to provide you with useful information. It's going to help you reach your goals and profit now in the flooring industry. The Flooring Business Podcast is sponsored by Floors App. So for the best flooring business operating systems and websites in the industry, let's contact Floors App. We can help you out with that right now. So this week, my guest is... All right, so today we got on Jason Thompson. Pretty vocal in our forum, so you guys have seen him oftentimes.
Hey, everybody.
How do I pronounce McCrory Carpet One?
McCrory Carpet One, yeah, the Irish way.
Where are you guys at? Out of Washington?
Yeah, we're in the top left corner of the map, so we're the furthest top left, and we're right across. We're less than 20 miles away from the Canada border. It's a very beautiful 1-hour ferry ride.
Since you're the furthest left, does that make you guys like the most liberal organization? And
yeah, maybe. I mean, I'd say, you know what honestly is really interesting about our community is we're pretty bellwether, and we get along really well. You know, everybody kind of keeps to their own corners, and you know, we all know how to shake hands and high five each other at the ball games. And yeah, we got a really good 50-50 community out here. I like it. I like the mix, and I work in.
You're the adults of the state, where Seattle's kind of like the children.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how it works. Kids. Yeah, we you know, we figure ourselves out, and then I get, you know, made fun of because I'm a terrible centrist. So I'm the worst of them all. Everybody hates me.
All right, so you're on the commercial side right now. You're the general manager for the commercial side of the business. And well, just a little background on McCrory. How long have they been around? Like 20 years or more?
So we've been a part of Carpet One for about 20-30 years, and in the 90s we got into Carpet One. But we've actually been in business for 60 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. What made them decide to go with Carpet One? Do you know?
Yeah, I do know that story just because I know the owners, and it was the buying group and battling big box, and we were having big box coming into town, and we needed a little bit of a reach, and we needed a little bit of guidance. And we were definitely we were specializing at the time into flooring. In the beginning, you know, this is way before my time. It was appliances and in anything interior, anything that was going on inside of your home, McCrory sold. We were like a Sears at the time, but a small town Sears. And so we were kind of like nullifying and getting really central. And when we found Howard Brodsky with Carpet One, good friend of mine, they went that direction.
Yeah, cool. So would you recommend that for somebody getting started, to start off with a buying group, or do you get your wheels going first and then join in with a buying group?
Yeah, so like I've got a lot of opinions on that, because for instance, my brother is entering the flooring business on his own, and it's out of pure coincidence. He'll be going independent. For me, I'm biased. I love my buying group. I love my Carpet One family. When I go and I meet with these other retailers, and they're all sticking to their own guns, and they're not necessarily governed by franchise agreements or anything of that nature.
Right.
We are all on the same page. When I'm at conventions with them, markets and meetings, it's crazy. We can have all these different opinions, but when it comes to flooring, it's like we're all on this like same page, and we're buying together, and we're sharing our same stories, and we're sharing our same battles. and we're not competing against the independents. We're competing against the people above us, the big orange and the big blue. And that's kind of where we come from.
It does seem like there are people that want to stay away from Shaw, Mohawk, the buying group. They have animus towards a larger company, a
Sure.
corporation, and they're
Yeah.
not looking at through the lens of how do I grow and help my business. They're more anti these companies than they are even pro their own business, in the sense
Right.
of, I always
Yeah.
recommend. Now, we checked out a buying group and we thought it was a no-brainer going in, but then
Right.
when we got there, we realized we were doing a lot of stuff better ourselves. But
Right.
I've always told people, check them out, see,
Yeah.
they have a lot to offer. So if you're a little weak in your buying, if you're weak in advertising and sales, help, buying groups will really help you.
Yeah, you're gonna hear me always champion for our buying group because that's the only one I know. So I wear that flag. I am a Carpet One guy, tried and true, and I've spent time in their headquarters in Manchester. It's a great group. Not enough good things to say about them. I mean, the owners, founders, Howard Brodsky, and now taking over John Gilbert. I mean, they just sit down next to me and it's just like talking to a friend. So it's very comfortable, and they're not bought into legacy entirely. They do allow for independent. We can do whatever we want. And so we have our independent relationships. We work with TNA, we work with Wonky, and Wonky and TNA are a big part of our success. And those are our independent, those are our regional groups that we, give a lot of business to, because especially in my commercial space, we get plenty of legacy and I give a lot of loyalty to the legacy, but I also get opportunities to re-specify it. If something's being value engineered, I can re-specify my products into a more regional, locally stocked product, especially if it's on a time schedule, something that needs to be produced.
Now, just so you guys know, this episode's kind of like Seinfeld. It's about nothing. I don't have a specific topic for Jason. So, but I want to talk about the industry. He knows a lot of facets to it. So everything from marketing to starting the business to, growing the business and whatnot. So the buying group is a fascinating part of our industry that I think, again, everyone should explore. So I wouldn't have thought of the buying groups when it came to commercial as much. So how has that helped you on the commercial side of things?
So on the commercial side, it doesn't allow me a lot of play, but I get to play with specific products. Philadelphia particularly is in Main Street commercial. Carpet One has developed quite a bit of either label protected products, like private label products, or they've actually created color schemes on their Main Street commercial for them. Particularly in my field currently, a lot of what I do is direct specifications. But what I usually do when I'm producing my estimates or producing my contracts is I'll get everything done and I bid as specified. And then I just copy and paste the bid and I just say, hey, look, if you want a like kind quality that's a different product that looks the same, acts the same, performs the same, and you want to save a little bit of money if you cross that bridge, or we can talk to the architect, then this is the price and you might save some money there. So
in the commercial realm of things, what is your closing rate? Do you know that?
I get most of my business, honestly. I don't know my rate percentage. A lot of people talk about percentages. I kind of just roll through the punches, and as long as the money is coming into the company and I'm maximizing that, I don't get a ton of rejections. I did just get one of my first a couple weeks ago, and I haven't gone over that quite yet. It actually kind of bothered me just because it's a close contractor where it's kind of like I just get the bids and I know who the flooring distributor they went with was, and they came in at about 10% lower than me, which was kind of interesting. So it's one of those situations where I'm thinking somebody missed something,
Right.
Yeah, and I haven't ran into a lot of those. Typically it when you're tight with your community and you're tight with your clients, and they kind of understand your portfolio. For me personally, like I haven't had to deal with like thinking about closing rates, and it's not really an ego trip for me at all. Like I just do my work and I get what I get, and I shake hands with the generals, and I show up for the supers, and then when they need things, they call me for their next projects.
So anytime I'm coaching or working with a business, we look at things like closing rates, average ticket price, things like that, because it can help instruct you on how to grow the business and what to go after, and even increasing the size of sales.
Sure.
Being at that, are they doing that on the residential side of the company? Do you know?
Yeah, so our residential, are you asking like if we track sales? And
Yeah, if you have like sales meetings where you go over that, do you have individual sales meetings for commercial versus?
yeah, we do. We try to have them every other Thursday, if not every Thursday. But we did kind of create a rule a couple of years ago that if we don't have 5 or 6 really important things in an agenda, we'll just put it into an email. But we get together, and it's certainly at the end of the month when commissions are paid to sales, we include where they're at for the year and where their goals were set for the year, so they kind of get to see, and they do get a 2-week update, so they can look at it from a multitude of microscopes. I prefer to look at things quarterly. That's a personal habit of mine, but we look at things and give the sales people opportunities to look at things on a 2-week, a month, and a quarter, and a 6-month basis.
So do the salespeople though, do they get to see everybody's, or do they only see their own individual?
No, yeah. So competition, yeah. So, we use RFMS. So you're able to open up and you're able to see what quotes are open, and you're able to see where the sales are for the month, or however you want to look at it, whether it's the day, the week, the month, the year. And that's open to all sales. We teach them how to do it. Whether or not they actually do that is up to them. I do because I'm still competitive. I don't need to be competitive, but I also don't like to find out that there's a horse chasing me. I always want to be the best, So
That's funny. I'm trying to influence a couple of clients that I have of sharing those numbers with the whole team. And it is funny how there are some people that are very reluctant to do that because they don't want to embarrass somebody, or they don't want to call somebody out. And it's all in good fun for one. And then two, you do hold people a little bit more accountable. And if you are influencing people to be more successful and make more money, why not? It just benefits their life.
Yeah, one of our greatest employees that we've hired since I've started here is a good friend of mine, and we're from the restaurant industry. And I basically stole him from a grocery aisle. I was like, it was during COVID, and I was like, "Are you bartending?" He's like, "No, the bar's closed." And I was like, "You would be perfect at McCrory's." He's been with us for 3 years. And the very first thing I did was pull out my W-2s, and I just started showing him. I was like, this is what my life looked like when I started, and this is what I look like now, and here's all the stuff. And I just rolled out the entire thing, and he's like, I work here now.
Yeah, cool.
I want this, and he's killing it. His name's Stu. You'll see him on the forums. I brought him into the forums. I gave him everything, like in terms of anything we could provide him. Definitely like to see other people be successful, and it's nice to train your competition. Like I wasn't finding a lot of that. Some of the competition had moved on, and I was needing it, and he kind of keeps me motivated. So
that's funny. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the business is fun. It should be fun, right? It's interesting. And it's not, you're not, doing roofing or something like that, or,
No,
I mean, maybe the installation part isn't as fun, but even those guys enjoy the work. I would contend that, they're craftsmen. They kind of enjoy what they're doing.
It's a very compelling industry. I'm very fortunate to have found it. I feel very fortunate.
Well, the myriad of opportunities is incredible. So between commercial and residential is just, they're like two totally different businesses. And I'm talking
Yes.
to the people who specialize in hardwood, and that's like its own niche, its own business,
Yes.
because custom
Yes.
hardwood is,
Sourcing and yeah.
yeah, sand and finish and staining and and even some of these people don't understand how good they really are.
Yes.
That's a common thing I find with a lot of the clients I have is, well, and a lot of people I talk to, they don't understand how good they are.
Yeah. My brother, he began sand and refinish about 10 years ago, and now he's out on his own and has the entire bonus system, and he's really invested himself into training and getting certified with Bona, and he's just hardwood forward. I mean, he knows how to install click, and he can do the WPCs, he can prep and lay floor. But I ask him, I'll call him and I'll say, hey, I've got an LVP job, are you interested? And he's like, I'm really in my lane here on hardwood.
Oh, nice.
And he just really zones in on that. You know, whether or not that'll be his entire story, you don't always get to just focus on one thing.
Would you mind sharing what he's selling sand and refinish for?
uh, in respect to
How much
like,
per square foot he sells the sand and refinish?
I'm not sure. I do know that he kind of varies depending on the prep. Out here we have a lot of oak, right?
Yeah.
In the Northwest, a lot of 2¼ inch oak, and in its lightest, in its most easily sand and refinish, it'd be about $4. And at its height, we just got off a project where, at the end of the day, it was about $10 to $12 a square foot. It had to do with maple
Right.
and a lot of different finishes.
I just had a client that closed a job for $8 a square foot, and his
Yeah.
competitor was $4.
Yeah.
So it's showing you, with a good sales presentation, and really, and that's the thing that's interesting about the sand and refinish is why anybody would ever compete on price, because there is so much that goes into it. And
Right.
the guys that do it just kind of take it for granted. They don't understand and appreciate the work that they're doing and the knowledge that they have.
Yeah, and certainly from the installation standpoint, you forget like how valuable you are sometimes. Like, you're valuable, but in terms of putting it to price. And one of the things that I've learned in the last few years is just how important it is to not focus on price. Like, if you get the job and everything's on a bottom line, and you've got the value and you're doing the service and you differentiate yourself from the other client, cost doesn't matter. And it's not relative to the other client or to the other competitor, to the other to somebody that you might be competing with. You have no there's nothing to compare. They might be 20% less than you, but they're providing 20% less than you.
Right. Well, I'll even argue that sometimes they're providing just as good a service. It's the way you communicate what you do
Sure.
that
Yeah.
influences somebody to go with you. Now,
Yep.
but you have a very specific challenge in commercial. A lot of times you don't get that opportunity face to face, do you? You submit
It
bids.
can be difficult, and sometimes I have to battle for it because I know how meaningful it'll be during installation. Like, for instance, right now, I'm doing a casino, and I started that project 4 years ago, and it came to fruition and then fell apart. And this I have with a lot of all that paperwork behind me is
Yeah.
stuff that's gonna go at some point. And I make it a point to build a relationship with the enemy, the architect. I make it a point to build a relationship with the general, the super. And if they change, I try to keep a note of who it is. And I just want them to know who I am. And then when we get out to the job, I just kind of show up for it. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It is very difficult to build meaningful relationships in the commercial sector. You have to kind of like muscle your way in.
Help me understand this too. And I'm working with one that actually is talking to him today. He has a commercial business, and then he has residential retail. Residential retail, I've got down packed. I know what that takes. What I'm explaining for commercial, the marketing is way different. Like you don't need SEO and pay-per-click and all that. It really is a belly to belly play where you got to go meet them. You got to call them. Would you agree with that? Disagree?
Yeah, absolutely. And generally, yeah, for the most part, for me, it's been new construction and just constantly communicating what they need and what we need. And in example of the casino today, it's like we show up and there's scissor jacks and everything's everywhere and the toolboxes are out and it's on the floor that they're telling me that they need done in 2 days. And and we've communicated to our brains bled that, hey, this all needs to be out of here for us to get it done by Wednesday or Thursday. And then I show up this morning and now a lot of it was cleaned up, but not as much. And I'm trying to roll out the red carpet for my installers so that we can get going and meet the superintendent's expectations there. So I definitely had to show up and just say, hey, if you really want this done by Wednesday, this is all got to go, buddy. So
in communicating, what's the most important thing that you find to clients on commercial projects? Is it cost, timeline? What are the things? What are the hot button issues where you gain their confidence?
If I think about it, I put it to an email, even if it's a quick note. And sometimes I can be a little bit of an over communicator. But what's really important is that I've never had anybody tell me that I'm communicating too much.
Right.
I've had feedback that I wasn't communicating enough, but I've never had anybody say, you didn't need to send that email. I've never had anybody say, so if it comes to mind, if I'm working on a project and I have a concern and I just put it down to email, overthinking things and, is this going to come across the right way or the wrong way? I'd say just send the email, communicate with your superintendent and on the commercial sector. And then it goes for residential as well. If you got an idea, usually the feedback I get is, oh my gosh, this guy actually cares. Like he really actually gives a damn about my project. And then when things, more so in the commercial, when things become problematic and maybe we have moisture issues, maybe I got to write a change order, maybe something's going on where I got to bill this client for more money. I have trust built with that client that they know, like I don't have to sell the change order. I can just include it.
So when it comes to charging them more, talk us through that. How does that go for you? How have you maybe set up expectations? So if there is an increase in cost, which probably almost always is, or
I do
how do
face a
you
lot of change
manage
orders.
that with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, change orders are good for the company. You're making more money, but it's usually a headache for not only the client, but even the salesperson and especially the installer, because usually a change order is more work and it's challenging the calendars. So when I'm bidding the process to the best of my abilities, I do write in, some unforeseens at the end of my estimates. I'll write like, if we have moisture issues, here's the cost. If we run into this issue, here's the cost. It's not ironclad. Sometimes, like I just had a countertop go in, and in order for that countertop to go in, they had to take out like a huge section of wall tile because the wall tile went up before the counters, and it kind of had to go up, and it wasn't the way I wanted it to be done. But I had to write a day charge for my installer as a change order, and I was like, hey, we gotta, I'll meet you in the middle. I'll cover the material, but we got to pay this guy. So.
Yeah. So one trick I learned from a company that does home improvements is they tell them on the sales portion, Okay, so if there is a change order, how would you like us to communicate that with you? So it kind of set up expectations. Like, you remember when we were talking before that you said you wanted me just to email the information to you, or that you wanted me to call you if there was a problem, so you kind of remind them that,
Yes, exactly.
you
Yeah,
know,
and I think that we rely too much, like in flooring. It's weird. I always feel so distanted from the other industries with this. Like, I mean, for me, I don't mean to be brash, but I just send them a bill. Like, I just send them the invoice and just say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what it's going to cost.
yeah.
And if you can pay that, that'd be great.
I think a lot of that has to do with the relationships that you've built with them. So
Yes.
you're able to do that. It's not the company or the area you're in. It's kind of, you've built that relationship with them. So they trust you enough to take care of it.
Yes. Yeah. And definitely, like, there's never been a job or a sale that I felt entitled to. There's never been a single day that I wake up where I feel entitled to that relationship. It's definitely something that if you want to be successful in this industry, and I think that this is generally what your talks are about, is like building better business, building better people, building better sales, building better installation. I think that putting your heart out there and giving a damn is the best thing that you can do. It's my best advice. Like, don't entitle yourself to anything.
Right. So yeah, always learning. And I always say, problems are opportunities. So you got a problem, you put it on the whiteboard and
Yes.
walk it through, which I do all the time,
Yeah.
no matter
Yeah.
what the business is.
Yeah.
So when it comes to marketing, again, and I brushed on this a little bit before, if you typically, when it comes to commercial, and a lot of people that want to get into it haven't really figured out that formula, but I would think it's hiring a salesperson
Mhm.
in lieu of marketing. So if you're going to pay $3,000 a month in marketing, you can give that money, or 2,500 plus commission or whatever it is, to a salesperson. How long would it take that salesperson to start generating some business when it comes to commercial, building the relationships that are necessary? You think it's 3
I
months,
think
6 months?
I think it's pretty quick. I think it's about 3 to 6 months. I mean, it reliably, you might call it a year before you really start churning and burning. But like, one of the first things I started doing was I contacted the legacy suppliers. I contacted my local suppliers and said, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what my goals are. And I started to get some referrals from them. So I had just began a pipeline. It wasn't like a reliable pipeline, but it was something. And then I started. One of the biggest things I did is I built a relationship with my local printer. The
Really?
local, yeah. I went into the printer and I said, "Hey, what do you got going on?" And I'll tell you that this is this is kind of abstract, but it worked for me. I don't know if it can be replicated, but about 80% of my jobs come from my local printer.
What? Are you kidding?
Yeah, I just say,
Well,
what's
how do you
going
find
on?
out the printer that's doing the blueprints?
I just
Is
say,
that,
what's going on? What's out there? And print me another one. And then
well, I
I
mean,
call
there's a
the
lot of
general.
printers that you could go to. So what?
Sure. My local printer is like he's his own thing. He's an independent and it's called In Graphic Detail. His name's Larry. I call Larry and I'm like, hey, do you got anything this week? Or he'll call me and he'll be like, hey, did you hear about this one? And that has been very fruitful for me.
That is insane. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a
Love
little
it.
coffee
That was
shop
brilliant.
trick I learned. Like, I don't know. I walked in and grabbed some prints one day a long time ago. And I looked down and I saw all these other blueprints on his table for pickup. And I was like, what are all those? And I started seeing other flooring companies or other contractors. And I was like, this is where I need to, this is
Oh,
a
that's
guy I need to
insane.
know. So and he doesn't just print for me. I get his he does PDFs for me and scaling, and he does business cards and he does everything. But I do recommend that. It worked for me. it can work for others, I imagine.
So as a salesperson though, what would you expect? How long does it take to just hit your rhythm and get going and get enough business where you're self-sustaining, commissionable, but you're earning a good living?
I'd say 6 months. Like that's, I mean, in residential. So I started residential. It took me about 6 to 9 months to kind of get rolling.
6 to
that
9
was a-
months.
yeah, that was a painful period. I didn't really enjoy, just because I was working so hard and the commissions weren't exactly coming in as quickly.
Really?
Yeah, and in our company, it's sink or swim, so you get going. But I built it, and I got on top of it, and I would recommend.
Do you guys does the company do shop at home? Do they try to
Yeah,
close at home?
yeah, we do. We strive for that on residential. We try to be able to be ready to sell in the home, and we also, we do a Costco program as well, which is
Oh,
shop.
okay.
That's a shop at home.
I've heard that.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
And then how about financing? Do you guys offer financing?
Synchrony. Yep.
Has that helped sales? I've
Yeah,
always thought it was a
absolutely.
salesperson's game to offer financing. So are your salespeople trained to offer that on every call?
Yeah, and something that I talk about a bit, and it's been shared, I think, on the forums, because I would have picked it up from somewhere, but it's Memo, MEMO, and it's mention early, mention often, because uh, when you talk about financing with people at the front door, typically they're like, oh, we'll figure this out one way or another, but financing is off the table. But you find out at closing that they need financing, and they discover that along the way. So we talk about financing on qualification when we're talking about how we're going to pay for the project, and we talk about financing in the middle of it, and then we remind people at the estimate, and then we talk about it at close, so that it's always there.
Yeah, people have asked, does financing work? And I'm like, well, no, it really doesn't, because if you sell it, it works, but you have to
Yeah,
sell it. You can't,
yeah,
just because you have financing, it's not going to move the needle.
yeah. And if anybody, my dad's actually a finance manager. He's been a finance manager for 40 years in auto, so I know what happens. But and anybody successful in finance sales knows what happens to the sale when you close on financing. It tends to not only increase the ticket size, but the return rate of that client, the likelihood that they're going to come back, it increases. And certainly through Synchrony, we're able to track and we can look at open balances, we can look at line of credit, and we can actually market to those specific clients. There's a lot of tools in your belt at the moment that you sell financing, and you sell financing not to the people who need the money. You sell it to the people who need the floors.
Oh, I love that.
So
Wow, you got a lot of really good ones here. So knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to a new guy that's transitioning from being an installer to a retail flooring store? How should they start off marketing, sales? What kind of advice would you give them to get them mostly over that $1 million hump? That seems to be
yeah,
a big hump.
man, that's a big hump. That took me a long time to get to. And it doesn't need to take that long. Certainly not with inflation. And I look at everything like a metronome. I like to play music. I love music, and you build a rhythm. And when you're just starting out, just start selling floors. Start with the bathroom, start with the halls, take what you can get, be humble, be humiliated a little bit, be wrong. It's okay. Like, ask your questions, get to know your clients, look them in the eye, and you build that rhythm, and then you build on it, and you start getting your living rooms and your closets, and then you get your whole homes, and then you get a build out, and then you start building relationships with builders, and everywhere you go, make sure that you're the person that they're talking to about flooring. Every person you talk to, they, when people think flooring, they do not think McCrory Carpet One, which is great. That's a great brand. It's a great company brand. It's built on 60 years of backing and warranties and everything. But when people in my community think flooring, they think Jason. It's their first thought, that's their first thought is, I got to call Jason. And in my community forums, when people are saying they just moved to town and we need to talk to somebody about carpet, I got 50 comments with my tag on it, Jason, 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 Jason. And
how'd you do that as an individual? Get people to think that takes a little bit of effort, not just waiting for the company to generate leads for you.
Exactly. So you can do that immediately. It's a very quick process. You can do that right out of the gates. And it really comes down to keeping your chin up and looking people in the eye and being outwardly in the community. If you're in sales and wanting to succeed and you're an introverted person, you need to push yourself and get out there if you want to be successful. I'm an introverted human being, and if I'm pulling back, if I'm feeling like I can't be out there in the world, I watch that hit my sales and I go down. And it's happened, I've definitely, if I pull back, it costs money.
How important would you say is product knowledge and knowledge of installation?
Not at all.
No. Okay, thank you.
Not at all.
So
it's all there in the paperwork. So the knowledge isn't relative. Yes, knowledge and education is important. Don't get me wrong there, but it shouldn't be there to scare somebody. You don't have to be an engineer to sell flooring,
right.
Is what I'm saying there. And I'm sorry it was so direct.
Well, I make the same argument, is that it's better to know the client. I even said a lot of people know your competition. And I've always said, well, no, know your customer.
Yes.
It's a lot more important to know what your customer wants, thinks, feels, than it is to know what your competition is charging.
Yeah. The best feeling in the world is when I'm closing sales that I'm not having, it's not a follow-up. It's, they're like begging me to get the signatures and payment in. And that's the position we all want to strive for, is we've got our intellectual property. We've got our installation knowledge, and the rapport is really where everything's being consummated. That's really where it all happens.
So I've
everything
talked to
else.
a few people lately that are those installers that are transitioning, and pretty much gave them the same advice. For one, just go sell something,
Yeah.
and they're worried about getting all the setup, the licenses and everything. And I'm like, well, the best thing is to have 5 years of experience, but you can't get that without going out there and selling something and making some mistakes and try to make money, and people will compare you to somebody that has all these years of experience and knowledge. Well, we all started somewhere.
Yeah, I'm a humble human being. I have made numerous mistakes I could tell long stories about that have cost me personally thousands of dollars. And we get over those humps and we focus on moving forward and making money, and that's what it's about. So living in a forgiving environment and being honest, being humble, having that integrity, and integrity is the most important aspect of this entire industry. I feel integrity, for me, there's a definition to. I learned this in business school. Integrity is doing what it is you said you were going to do. And that is the hardest thing to do in adulthood, I have learned. It is what everybody either succeeds in or fails at.
Well, the people that charge more, and some people that say they don't want to charge more because they don't want to rip customers off. And I said, there's only one way you can rip off a customer, And that's by not doing what you said you were going to do for the price
Yes.
you agreed to do it for.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
agreed to a certain price. They agreed to pay that. Just as long as you did what you said you're going to do, nobody's
Yeah.
going to argue or complain.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that in its, furthest exaggeration. I mean, you could charge $1 million a square foot at the point that the client and you have an agreement and all the expectations are set. That's the fair price.
Right.
It doesn't, the value is there, and the value, is the value of the product and the installation is superior to the price.
Where you're ripping people off is when you don't deliver. So it's usually the cheaper guys that can't afford the materials or can't afford to do it properly.
Yes.
They got themselves in a jam. They bought a job, they couldn't afford to do it, and they're not completing them. That's ripping the customer off.
Exactly. I say this all the time, and I agree with you. And I've been the guy that didn't show up for what he was gonna, said he was gonna do for one excuse or another. And that's a really painful point to be in. And so I'm always pushing myself and others, to break through that and to recognize their mistakes. And when you make those mistakes, show up for your client and recognize them. Wow. When you admit that, there was a failure, you really want to build some trust with a client, make a mistake and fix it.
Yeah. Well, have you ever gone to a customer that used you again and you said, we had nothing but problems on your job. Why are you calling me again? And they said, well,
yeah,
you
I
take
have.
care of it. And that's it.
Yeah. Usually
But
it's, yeah.
If nothing, if everything goes right, you may never see that client again. But if something goes wrong and you fix it, they're a client for life.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a broken leg for a little over a year, and I got an infection, and I went septic 3 times. My heart failed. I had a whole sob story, right? And my surgeon, who I kept the entire time, and there was malpractice involved, he and I had a chat, and he's like, do you want to change surgeons? I was with the hospital review board. And I was like, I haven't given you an opportunity to fix it yet. Like and he's still my surgeon to this day,
Wow.
and, we got through that, and we overcame that. And I have more trust and faith built in him post mistake than I did before. And a lot of people would have diverted in that case, especially with personal health. But it reminded me so much in sales, like you run into issues. You really have an opportunity when you run into these issues to really shine above others, because it's going to separate you. When stuff hit the fan, what did you do? Who were you? Did you fix it, or did you run from it?
Right. Yeah. Grit your teeth, fix the problem, and move on.
Yeah. So I got a lot of repeat clients, plenty of them that, things aren't perfect in flooring. We all know this is a turbulent industry. We run into so many issues.
How do you handle a challenging customer, especially with commercial, when the tickets are so large? People are holding your money because of a piece of trim or some little insignificant piece of the job that is not done to their liking, or something's not done from another contractor that's totally out of your control.
Yeah, my fast answer is team. You do need a team if you want to be in the millions. If you want to be running in the millions, you do need a great purchasing department. You need a great accounting officer. This is opinion based, but I don't think you should be doing that on your own. And so billing, I have a great teammate that has been with our company longer than I've been alive. And she's a battle axe and knows how to get those bills on the commercial side paid. But definitely communicating again with the clients is my personal crutch. I do divert to my billing department, and they're just incredible. They're great at communicating and getting people, getting money out of people's hands without, things escalating.
Yeah, so. Good. Well, that affects you as a salesperson too, getting paid your commissions and whatnot, right?
Oh man, I can't. I got a lot. I think I'm sitting at about 3/4 of undelivereds right now. So I definitely am excited to get those installed and
Yeah.
done. 'Cause, uh,
Yeah, you can't count on that money, but it's good when it comes in, right?
exactly. Yeah. 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 I've never sat on a stack that heavy before. So
Well, Jason, this has been one of the best interviews I've ever had. A lot of great insight, and I think things that'll help people out. Again, I'm finding a lot of clients trying to get over that $1 million hump. A lot of
yeah.
people that are interested in getting involved in the commercial business and how difficult that is and how long it takes. But some of those secrets, I mean, going to the printer shop is brilliant. That's I've never heard that before, and that's something nobody's ever said or taught, I'm sure.
Go small, like the idea definitely came from when I was younger. It was during the recession and I had to work a lot of jobs. I was a young dad, and things weren't easy at all. And I went to the coffee shop every day, and contractors would be there. They'd make work available to me if I was there. So I kind of picked up on those little nuances, and I brought them with me into sales. And I really think that the more you dive into your community, the better and more successful you'll be. It's just my thing. Like everybody's got their style, and that's mine.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to close this thing out. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for being on the show.
And thanks, Jerry. Yeah. I hope to meet you in person one day, Jerry. So
yeah, that would be great.
See you soon.
Definitely will.
Yeah.
Hang on a moment. And thanks for joining the business podcast, the Flooring Business Podcast. If you'd like to have a one-on-one discovery call for your flooring business, where we can review where you're at and how you can increase sales and profits by over 30%, go to jerrylevinson.com. In there's a free assessment tool where you can score your business and see which areas need the most improvement. So everybody have a great, profitable week. Go sell something, will you? Have an excellent year.